Real talk, no challenges today, no gimmicks. I've been saving these Velociraptor minis for a rainy day, and sometimes a fella just wants to paint some dinosaurs. I'm having a chill paint day, and you're invited to hang out. Wizkids models come pre-primed. I'm usually skeptical as the primer tends to be thick and clog the details. But I only paid $5 for these, and for that price you can't complain. They also come with these clear bases, but I'm going to swap them for some 28mm round wargaming bases. That way I can get scenic with it later. Before we start, it's an application of wood glue and a dip in the sandbag. Then I'm going to use some hand primer to cover the base, because the mini itself doesn't need any more applied. The primer on those minis is wicked bright too, it was throwing my camera off, reflecting all that light. But with the first base coat, a 2-1 mix of black, brown, and neutral gray, we can darken the model and I can reset my camera's ISO. I'll cover the base while I'm at it. Hide the rest of the gray. I'll use my old standby, Flat Earth. And then I'll go make some coffee so those two coats can dry and get to know each other. Once the paint is dry and the paint are caffeinated, I'll dry brush both models with a bit of neutral gray. I do want to start building the bodies towards a gray, but this step also helps me understand the different nooks and crannies of the sculpt, and gives me some time to think about how I want to approach painting these models. And I think I'm starting to get an idea for the colors. I'll start by painting a mix of Prussian blue, neutral gray, and a touch of black brown on the head of one raptor, then down the back and over the tail of the second. Then I mix hull red with gray to the same spots but switched. This way they'll match but be distinguishable. Now I'm thinking these raptors need stripes, it'll give them some color and personality. So over the dark red areas, I paint some blobby lines in flat red. Then mix Prussian blue and blue-green for the areas I had painted that dark blue. Now that we have our base coats and a general plan established, I'm going to glaze the whole thing with royal purple. Makes sense, right, given that we're working with blue and red? Anyway, I'm thinning it down with glaze medium and water. It's like a wash, but not as dramatic, and a good way to tint and darken without overwhelming the colors beneath. I wind up mixing some black brown just to darken, and a drop of Prussian blue to cool it back down, and hopefully at this point you can see how thin I like it. With our shadows established, I begin the dry brushing. Starting with the undercarriage areas. The hands and feet in particular have a lot of detail I don't feel like picking out yet, so a dry brush will do for now. I want to give the red areas a similar treatment, but I'm wondering how to avoid hiding the areas I've already painted as stripes. So maybe if I mix in some purple with the red, I can still pick out those areas. Then I do the same thing on the blue areas with Prussian blue and neutral gray. Cool, we got a nice little base to work from here. Tabletop ready, at this point I'd say, but we can push this a little further for sure. Now sky gray seems like a good candidate to use on the next step of the skin, but I put it down and I feel like it still might be too bright. So I mix in some neutral gray to bring it down, but the results are just still too bright for my liking. That being said, the rest of the models are about to get really bright too, so I'm going to hold off on correcting it until the other areas are brought up to a similar level. Another coat of red and blue-green on the stripes. The blue-green stripes are still a little bright, so I'm going to dull them down with some dark Prussian blue and blue-green mix. Very thin, just glazing along the stripes. The twerking pose raptor is very textured. He has a skin like a cracked desert floor, so I'm going to stop worrying about matching the ridges and recesses 100%. I'm going to go with the flow on him. It's supposed to be a chill paint up, not a golden demon entry. Now I got this color called Amaranth Red, which is a red but almost an orange, and I think it would be a great highlight for the red stripes. And after a little time with the brush, I'm starting to vibe it. Now at this point, it's okay for a bright paint to be bright, so I apply that blue-green back on the stripes and I love how it's coming together. So after a little bit of off-camera cleanup, I'm gonna highlight the skin with straight sky gray. I'm finding it much easier to do on the standing raptor. I don't know if it's because his skin is smoother or the pose is more open, it could be both, but it's much easier to determine where the highlights go, and the colors just come together a little nicer on him. Then a little blue-gray mix to highlight the blue areas. I feel like I've been putting this step off for a minute, but it's doing wonders. Then I reapply red and amaranth to the stripes, just so they pop a little more. But then I take the leftover red on my palette and mix it with pastel blue to create an off pink, which I use to paint the tongues. So it's time to put on my magnifying goggles and bust out the buff to paint the teeth and claws. These details are tiny, his claws are very stubby in particular, and the teeth are a pain to try and figure out. But with some small taps of the brush, they seem to come together. Next I'll pull out some pink and apply it to the tongues as a highlight. So I elect to do a quick wash of Agrax Earthshade over the buff, because I'm close to the end and I don't really feel like spending too much time on these small details. But while I'm washing the models, I'll go ahead and apply a black wash to the base so they can both dry at the same time. And after a quick dry break, I can apply some pips of buff back on the claws, particularly the big ones on the feet, like a nail salon for deadly critters. Then I just dry brush tan earth over the base and apply some fake foliage. I like mixing static grass and these pre-made plant tufts. Mixing different flora on a base does wonders for a model, I think. Alright, and that's a wrap on the Wizkids Raptors. Not a bad little afternoon paint up. I don't know when I'll be using these in a game yet. I think I'll have to write an encounter for them soon. Maybe some sort of ridiculous trap where the ceiling drops crates full of dinosaurs on the party. Either way, these models are ready. Question for you, viewer. How do you think we should paint dinosaurs? We don't really know what they looked like, so I mean, you can do whatever you want to, but someone's gotta have a pattern or color that they like to use, right? Thanks for watching and chilling with me today. Be sure to like and subscribe. This is Bristle Cult. Happy painting.